Hey, we are back. And in today's episode, we are going to dive into the vast world of astrology. I am going to share with you where my journey with astrology started, my perception of what this ancient wisdom means, and how you can apply it to your life in a really tangible way. So, I hope you're ready. Let's get weird. Let's start at the beginning. What is astrology? Well, the actual definition, according to Google, is the study of the movements and relative positions of celestial bodies, interpreted as having an influence on human affairs and the natural world. Sounds kind of ominous, am I right? Well, I'm going to dumb it down for you. I believe astrology is a study of the movements and energies of planets, asteroids, and stars that can influence our individual and collective lives. And I also believe that astrology is a tool. It's here to be your guide and allow you to see yourself through this unique lens, just like the Enneagram or numerology or human design. All of these things are tools here to guide us along in this life so that we may reach our highest potential, so that we may have the most impactful self awareness about who we are, what we are capable of, and what may challenge us in this life. Now, I know all of these things sound a little woo woo and like I just floated off to Mars and you have no idea what I'm talking about. Sometimes it does feel that way because astrology is very, very vast. But hear me out. If whatever higher power you believe in, if you believe in a higher power, I use the verbiage God, sometimes the universe, and sometimes even the divine. But if whatever higher power created the sun, moon, planets, and stars, as well as us, why wouldn't we be connected to them? Just like the seasons can affect our mood, the planetary energies can too. This wisdom is literally older than Jesus. And I know that in so many ways and in so many realms, it can be deemed evil. But I really truly believe that it's just meant to help us understand ourselves and our world. And a lot of times we can fear what we don't understand. And astrology can be a complex thing to understand. And so it can get slapped with these labels like evil or bad or taboo, whatever it is. The ultimate goal with this tool, if you're using it with integrity, is to step into an empowered version of who you are rather than its shadow. Because everything, everything in this life, from religion to astrology to books to freedom of speech, can be used in an empowered way or in a shadow way. We've all done it. We can all do it because we are all human. And so it's with what intention you use these tools or you wield your power or your voice, that is the intention that you are going to receive from it. It doesn't mean that it holds all the answers or that you are choosing to worship these beliefs, at least not in my world. But you're just willing to use and understand how interconnected we are with everything around us, above us, and right beneath our feet. So, how do you begin to understand that astrology can work for you or how it is supposed to work for you? Well, to pull up your birth chart, which I will explain what that is in a moment, you need your date of birth, the location of your birth, city and state, not the name of the hospital, the exact time of your birth, which is very crucial for accuracy. And these three pieces of information are extremely vital for you to be able to get an accurate reading. And if anyone tells you different, they are completely full of shit. And you are about to be taken advantage of. So run in the opposite direction. Okay, so now what is a birth chart? A birth chart is a snapshot of the sky at the moment of your birth from the location of your birth. So, do you remember those three things that I told you that you needed? Yeah, this is why they are important. Because when we pull up your birth chart, it's as if somebody was standing in the exact location of where you were born, and they look up at the sky and they took a picture. And we're just going to try to understand how these planetary placements have influenced your life, your personal traits, your strengths, and your challenges. And so before we go any further, I really, really want to clarify some misconceptions. Astrology does not tell your future. No, I am not a fortune teller or a palm reader or a witch. Well, I kind of am a witch, but not in the black cauldron sacrificing children kind of way. Okay, people? So let's get it together. But astrology does not determine your destiny. It provides a guide, once again, to understanding yourself, revealing the shadow and the empowered energies that make up who you are. It is about self-awareness. It is not excuses for behavior. It isn't here to lock you in a box or give you a reason to be a shitty person. It is here to allow you to grow. It is up to you to determine what you will do with the information that you are given. It's the same thing as reading a self-development book. You're going to perceive that information in whatever way your mind perceives it. And you're going to apply it to your life in whatever way you see fit. And so it's not like we're at the whim of the planets or this tool. We are the author of our own story. This can just be a way that you learn to relate to it. Sounds pretty freaking nice. Am I right? I mean, come on. This can just give you comfort in who you are and what you are capable of doing in this life instead of floundering around constantly feeling like a fish out of water, because that is exactly how I used to feel so regularly about who I was and what I was doing until I discovered this really beautiful tool in the year of 2021. And if you listened to one of my previous episodes where I share my story, 2021 was the absolute hardest year of my life. And it was a massive year of transformation for me. I was in the throes of depression and really watching my life crumble around me in so many ways. I felt raw and broken and confused, and I had been desperately searching for clarity and purpose. I was working with an intuitive healer named Elaine who held my hand so beautifully throughout that year that I will always treasure the beginning of my healing journey because she was there as my guide. And as my guide, one day during one of our sessions, she was like, I think you should have your birth chart read by my brother. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck that means, but it sounds pretty cool. So sign me up. And after a couple email exchanges, I had scheduled an appointment to have my birth chart read. And so I went into this experience not really knowing much about astrology other than the fact that I was an Aries sun, which is typically what we're most familiar with, the zodiac sign that's attached to our birth date. And I was really just open to learning anything and everything that I could because I was so lost and because I was just desperately searching for purpose in the hard place I found myself. And I was desperately searching for guidance. So, not really knowing what to expect, I showed up on this call, nervous, of course, and honestly felt my life change within 2 hours. When I met Jen, I knew instantly that we were meant to meet. And as he read my chart, I had never felt more fully seen by anyone for the first time in my entire life. I remember my second husband, we were married at the time, and he came home that afternoon and he was like, "You're like visibly glowing." And I felt like I was. And especially for where I was in that year and in that place and time, that was a big deal because there was not much about me that was glowing throughout that year or throughout that time. And so this experience just really changed so many things for me. Even though I didn't understand its impact at the time, I felt it with every revelation, with every observation, with every planetary placement that Jim began to explain to me. I felt I felt so validated in everything that I always knew that I was, but always felt so ashamed to be. Being too much, being too sensitive, being too loud, being too wild, being too bold, being too hard on herself, being too insecure, being too critical. All of these things were represented in my astrology chart in some way. And honestly, it was just like this mirror that was letting me know that these things were all a part of who I was and how I was meant to grow and be challenged or how I was meant to shine. But a lot of them were playing out in their shadow. And I felt it in my bones. And I never had known what to do with it. I didn't know how to lean into this empowered version of myself. I was just being controlled by their shadows and their fears and their insecurities. And so being able to see it through this unique lens took away so much of the shame and it took away so much of the judgment because it was like, you're feeling these things. You are this person. You have become this version of yourself for a reason. Maybe it's because you're meant to heal in a certain way. Maybe it's because you're meant to evolve. Maybe it's because you're just meant to express yourself with passion instead of aggravation. And I just, I never knew how to honor it. I never knew how to honor who I was. And it wasn't until that moment that I really started to believe and feel like, oh my gosh, you're not just a problem that needs to be fixed. You are meant to really lean into who you are, whether or not that is who you think you should be. And I don't know, it was like this moment of coming home. And I just started to dip my toes into the understanding of how to honor my natural energy rather than suppressing it and using astrology as this tool to embrace my true self. And yes, there were times and moments, especially in the beginning of that journey, that I really, really identified with my placements and with all of these things that I had learned about. I really identified with them. And there's nothing wrong with that. It happens a lot of times when people start to learn about astrology. But what I've learned since then, since 2021, is that I don't have to identify with these placements. I can just hold space for them. Me knowing about astrology, me being knowledgeable and understanding this as deeply as I do, doesn't mean that it has to always give me the answers. What it means is that it's just another thing here to help me along my way. And I think I had to really come into that place because, like I said, it was very easy. After you go so long without feeling like you know who you are or without truly understanding, I don't know, like what this life is supposed to mean for you, you can really grasp on to anything that's going to help you find clarity or purpose. And so you can kind of sling to that other side of the spectrum. I've been able to find balance with all of the tools that I now attain or all of the things that I choose to learn about, because that is what the goal is. The goal is not to put all your eggs in one basket. The goal is to be able to gather them and utilize them when they're needed, not so that it's another box that you're trying to cram yourself into. So, anyways, back to my journey. In 2022, after I began a very intensive deep dive into astrology, I decided to take a 6-week course on how to read my own birth chart because I had been meeting with Jim every like 3 to 4 months and loved it. I loved every bit of it, not just the compassion and guidance I felt like I received from him, but also just understanding this language and being able to learn about the people in my family or my children or my friends. And so I was like, yeah, let's learn how to read birth charts for real. And so I took this 6-week course that eventually led me into the beginning of 2023 through the same company, Rising Woman, applying for a 5-month certified mystic astrologer program. And so through this process, they only accepted students based on their birth chart and personal alignment. So you fill out the application, you send in your birth chart, and they will take a look at your birth chart to actually see if you have really like the capacity to be good at doing this for others and holding space for others in this way and utilizing this tool with integrity. Because integrity and intention in spiritual work are crucial. When you are working with any kind of spiritual entity or person, the first thing to be mindful of is integrity. It is integrity. Absolutely 100% across the board. And pay attention, like I said again, to the intention with which they do their work. Yes, there are some people out there using these tools to do more harm than good. But a lot of the times, healers, light workers, astrologers, tarot readers are only wanting to grow the consciousness of our highest good in the collective. So remember that the world who has deemed any of these tools as evil just don't understand it or have been victim to it in a shadow way. So I just ask you, especially when you're learning about new things, to always keep an open mind and to ask a lot of questions because getting curious before passing judgment is a really crucial lesson to learn in life for all of us on a regular basis. So, as I entered into this 5-month program, because ta da, I got accepted, it really forced me to push past a lot of insecurity and self-doubt. And that is something that I think all new ventures can do for all of us. And I'm not going to bore you with all the details of the process, but when you finally start moving towards your purpose, a sense of peace will find you. But it does not ever come without the doubt or the overwhelm or the uncertainty. I feel it right here, right now, as I'm recording this podcast, because it's something new. It's something I've never done. And so I'm constantly going to be asking myself that question of, gosh, what the hell am I doing? Am I really capable of this? Is anybody going to listen? But when you find something that is meant to be a part of your story, that is meant to be a part of your purpose, you will find a way to continue. There will always be something inside of you whispering not to give up. And so that's why I'm here week after week talking into this microphone and camera and really sharing parts of who I am in a vulnerable way, because I know that it matters. I know that it is for a reason. And as humans, I think we all experience this. As humans, we just are really good at making everything a little bit more complicated than it needs to be. And so we can overthink and overwhelm and overstress about things that sometimes it's like, no, you just got to follow it. You just got to follow it and be led and trust. It's a lot easier said than done, but it really is that simple. So, for the 5 months that I was in this program, I had to push myself to show up. And at times that was hard. And at others, it literally felt like second nature. But I'm also a single mom of 2 kids. So life happens and things get crazy. But through the process, I met so many amazing women that I'm still friends with today, that still support me online, and I still support them, and from all over the world that I communicate with. And it really opened my eyes to so much culture and so much love from different life experiences and from different people going through different things, while also learning about this beautiful tool that is just guiding us all. And I really had to overcome this insecurity of what they thought of me, or if they thought that I was good enough at this, or if they liked who I was, or if I talked too much, or whatever the things were. I had to really trust that I had the knowledge to do this work. But I also had to remind myself in a very, very regular basis that it didn't have to be perfect getting there. And that's something that I feel like just in the last couple months has really settled in for me in everything in life, that it doesn't have to be perfect. It never is going to be. And so, me setting unrealistic expectations for myself is not going to disappoint anyone but me continually over and over and over again. And honestly, I was shown that when I started doing readings for friends and family, literally on the living room floor of the 1970s trailer that I was living in with my kids at the time. So we would plop down as I would set sacred space and take a look at their chart and pull some cards. I really watched myself grow into this craft where, the way I started out doing readings then is not the way that I do readings now, but I would sit in that sacred space with these people who would trust me with this very personal, vulnerable experience. And we would laugh. And most of the time, we would cry and we would talk and share parts of ourselves and parts of our story that were so beautiful. And I'm so grateful for each and every person that took a chance on me in the beginning and allowed me to be able to be their guide in that way. And so, as I watched how much this tool that I knew changed my life, change other people's, and was able to see how they found clarity and understanding, how they left with a sense of knowing more about who they were and what they were capable of and why they operate the way that they do, and how certain things affected them more significantly than it may have affected another person because of X, Y, or Z. They felt seen and they felt heard and they felt safe. And I can't ask for anything more than that. I just feel so proud to be able to have been and still be of service to people in this way with this tool. And that's why it's so important for me to talk about, because I do think it makes such a difference in the world. And so, with all of this passion and with all of this excitement and with all of this love for this tool and this wisdom, I jumped further into the world of astrology. And after completing my certification, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to become a full time astrologer. And I was excited. I was so excited. But also, there was a part of me who still believed that she had a lot to prove. Because when you are a woman who has gone through her second divorce in a decade and all of a sudden starts talking about astrology and tarot cards and intuitive guidance healers and mediums and all of these things, especially in a very rural, small town, people start to look at you a little sideways. And that is not something that is new to me. I feel like people have always looked at me a little sideways, but I blame that on my big fat mouth and my blunt honesty. So, as people started to really kind of, you know, question this journey that I was on, I really pressed the gas pedal on proving that it was something and proving that I could create something from it with it. And so, even though my intentions were very pure in love and light and passion, there was still some of those old core wounds rearing their little head along their way. But I began to build a website, build a social media, start learning about marketing strategies. I signed up for a mentorship. That was one of the greatest gifts that I ever gave myself. But the further down that path that I traveled, the more resistant I became to the work. And the pressure of monetizing astrology really drained my joy for it. And that was a really hard pill to swallow when I came to that realization at the end of 2024. But I did. I ate a little slice of humble pie and realized how significantly, because it was successful, because I was doing lots of readings and for people all over the world, but it was just a piece of the story. It wasn't the entire thing. And I see that now, and I know that now, and I know why and understand why I try to push it so hard, but it wasn't in complete alignment. And that was made apparent when my resistance to it grew, when my procrastination grew, when I didn't want to create content or I didn't even want to talk about astrology. Because if you know me in real life, I talk about astrology all the time. So I really had to come to a grounded place of understanding that I want to do readings for joy and not for validation. And I want to do them because of what they can give to others, not because of a specific paycheck that I'm trying to get from it. So I scaled it back to where it all began. And once again, I'm doing readings with passion and joy and connecting with people in such a cool and fun way, but without the pressure of force and without the need to have a website or market packages or readings or creating social media content. It's something that I love to share and talk about. So, yeah, if it makes me a little extra side cash, great, cool, awesome. If it allows me to connect with some really cool, unique people, even better. If it helps them love themselves deeper than they ever have before, okay, now we're really talking. So sometimes we have to shift. Sometimes we have to let ourselves turn the page and allow space for our passions to evolve. And so I get to still talk about astrology. I'm going to talk about astrology on this podcast, and I get to talk about it in the salon. I get to share about it on social media when I feel the call, or if I'm talking to one of my friends. But yeah, it took a really big, huge weight off my shoulders. And so I'm really proud of myself for being willing to allow it to shift in the way that it needed to. And another big thing that I began to struggle with was astrology's presence on social media because All right, now, don't come for me, guys. All right? Witch talk, astrologers of Instagram, I am one of you, I promise. Okay. And I love so much of what so many people put out into the world. But I do feel like astrology on social media can be simplified very significantly. And, everyone's perception and experience with astrology is different. So I feel like to make it bite sized for consumption, easier consumption on social media, a lot of the information can start to become kind of generic and it can lack depth and personalization. Not for all, okay? Because there are many, many accounts that I follow or that I reshare things from that give a beautiful, beautiful description, definition that really resonates with me. But I do feel like there is a lot out there that can lack depth and personalization. And so I struggle with that. I struggle with that because everybody's perception of astrology is different. And the layers of astrology are so vast and they resonate with people differently. I see that in the readings that I do. I see that in the way that I look at my own chart. Just because these traits of this sign resonate with this person in this way doesn't mean that it's going to resonate with another person in that same way. And so when you're a Leo sun and you're looking up or looking at this post that this astrologer or somebody who just likes astrology posted about, it can kind of make you be confused because you're like, well, that doesn't feel like me at all. Well, maybe that doesn't resonate with you because of where your moon's placed or, where your Venus sign is, whatever that is. It's all so multifaceted. And I feel like when we are consuming the information online in very broad and generic terms, it just lessens its depth. And the depth of astrology is what I love about it. And so, yeah, again, don't come for me, you guys. I promise I love you and I support so many of you, but I feel like it can get oversaturated. And I feel like it loses its magic a little bit in the online world. So that's my 2 cents. That is just my opinion. And that is just why I struggled with creating online content for astrology. And so saying all of that, I want to tell you that if you are consuming astrology content, make sure that you resonate with what truly works for you. Like, only hold on to what truly resonates because at the end of the day, nobody knows you better than you. Astrology is here to strengthen your intuition, not to give you answers or external validation. Yes, it can give you validation and allowing you to feel seen if, again, it's used with the right intention, but it's here to help you strengthen your intuition, not ask it for all of the answers. And so I think that it's something that we all need to be very mindful of and careful with when we're consuming things online, not just with astrology. That's with anything, anything online. At the end of the day, the answers you are searching for are within. And yes, there are beautiful things and beautiful people and beautiful healers out here in the world doing work that are here to help and guide and support and to deliver messages at the times in which you're meant to hear them. But at the end of the day, you are the one. You are the one who knows yourself better than anybody else could. And so it's up to you to take these messages, to take these tools, and to utilize them in a way that feels empowering in your life. And I feel like I have a very storybook perspective of astrology. And that's part of why I want to include it in this podcast because I truly feel like astrology is a reflection of your story and it helps to guide you to fill in the pages and it helps you to understand why, some chapters may have been a little messier than others, but not how each and every transit is going to affect your sign on this date and that time and da 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 da. Because again, it's harder to apply that to your life sometimes when it is in generic terms. And so it's very personal. It's a very personal art, and it's so different for each and every person. So I always highly recommend to get your birth chart read or to look it up yourself to at least understand what your sun sign is, your moon sign is, and your rising sign. And yes, I know some of these terms in this language you guys might not understand. I will do an episode explaining more about astrology and the placements and the houses and our charts and things like that. Have no fear. I just wanted to kind of get our feet on the ground and explaining my relationship with it and why it's such an important piece of my story and my life. But to utilize this in your own life, do it with the intention of becoming more self aware, to become more intentional, to become more compassionate for yourself and others, not just for external validation or excuses for why you may be the way you are. There's a difference in having self awareness and searching for an excuse. So remember that. And I don't know, just expand the lens through which you learn. Let astrology be a part of it. And when you can integrate that into your life in really mindful ways, I promise it can really change things for you. It's allowed me to understand how to regulate my nervous system, to take better care of my physical health, to communicate better and differently, to show up as my authentic being instead of just like the mask in which some of us like to put on. Hell, it's even helped me figure out how to dress myself better because in your 30s, as a mom, that's hard. And also another subject that we will dive into on an entirely different day. But yeah, it can teach you so much. It can teach you so much. So if you want to learn more about your personal birth chart, please shoot me a DM. I would love to do a reading with you. Right now, I'm just charging $75 flat rate for a reading, a full birth chart reading. If you've had your birth chart read and you want to do a transits reading, we can do that too. Um, I just do everything via FaceTime, and it's beautiful and it's fun and it's great. And I absolutely love it because this tool is incredible. It's changed my life. I have watched it change the lives of my clients. It's deeply personal, it's ever evolving. And yeah, who doesn't want more self awareness, compassion, and intentional living in their life? I mean, come on. So I have thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you guys about astrology. And even though my beautiful, beautiful, the cosmic flame is no longer on social media, it's still a very big part of who I am and what I do and the ways in which I choose to be of service to the people around me. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you being here. And if you ever have any questions, please hit up those DMs. So, if you loved this episode, like, comment, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Come say hi over on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok at Turn the Page Podcast. Until next time, bye bye.